right, welcome back. I just wanted to welcome a very, very special guest, very special to us here in Burlington, New Jersey. I'm going to let him introduce himself, Coach, if you don't mind.
I am Ron Powell, girls basketball coach at Cherokee High School.
Yes, Ron Powell. We love having him. He's our coach, as we like to say. So this is a special interview. I've been looking forward to this for a long time. We've had some nice chats, throughout the years. And now that Gabby, my daughter, is at Cherokee, this is even more special. This really hits home. So we're just going to be talking about some great things here in the South Jersey basketball community. We're going to continue, getting to learn about these teams and the coaches and the players and the history. And hopefully we can grab some more fans as we go, because we really want to grow the community of South Jersey girls basketball. So Coach Powell, tell us about where'd you grow up?
Well, first off, Mike, thanks for having me. I wanted to say that I've watched every podcast. Those of us that are passionate about the game, it really gives a little bit of insight to some of the other coaches that we coach against, and even more so some of the kids that we get to meet as players on other teams. You only know them as competitors, but when you interview them, you kind of find out a little bit more about them as young people. And I've really enjoyed every single one of your podcasts. So wanted to thank you for having me, and just give you a shout out for what you're doing for girls basketball, because I think it's pretty cool.
Thanks, Coach. I appreciate it. I'm enjoying it because I'm really getting a chance to meet other people. I love, getting to know them, because I think as you get to know coaches and people, you get a different understanding. And I think you can become a fan of their work and their team, and you can appreciate, what they do. I mean, everybody has their own style, everybody has their own personality, but I think in the grand scheme of things, all coaches, all teams, they want to be successful. And I think they're instilling important things into their kids to be successful. They just have a different style of doing it. So, you learn a lot from other coaches as well and other players. So I think it's just fantastic.
So I grew up in Burlington Township. My mom was Nancy. My dad was Ronnie, Sr. I have a sister, Michelle. I'm married. We live in Medford now, but I did live in Marlton for 24 years in Ravenscliff. We moved to Lake Pine 4 years ago, and we live on a lake. So we get to enjoy the lakefront life. And my wife, Joanne, my daughter, Lauren, my son, Ryan, my immediate family, they're my support group. I grew up in Burlington Township, went to Burlington Township High School, played for legendary coach Ken Faulkner at Burlington Township, and then went on to college. At the time, it was Trenton State College, not the College of New Jersey. Played 2 years there. Didn't really care for the coach. We had 4 freshmen that were recruited that year. We all left after our sophomore year. We all transferred out. And as you would have it, when we left, they fired him, or I would have stayed. I sat out a year. I transferred to East Stroudsburg University in the Poconos. I sat out a year. And then I did not play. There was a coaching change there, and I didn't play after that. When I decided to transfer, I was hoping to play for the coach that was there, and then they got rid of him and they brought somebody else in, and I didn't. I ended up not playing, but got my bachelor's of science in health and physical education, and got my first teaching job in 1982 at Beverly City Elementary School. And from there, I went to Mount Holly, and became, the basketball coach at Rancocas Valley, and was teaching health and phys ed at the junior high in Mount Holly. And then later on, I moved on to Cherokee and became the boys coach there. And 6 years ago, I became the girls coach. So that's kind of like been my journey.
Wow, that sounds pretty cool. So, how did you get started into coaching?
So while I was a high school player at Burlington Township, one of our arch rivals was Florence High School. And they had a coach, his name was Louis Guadino, and they called him the Little General. He was roommates with Pete Carrill at Princeton University. So Louis was the coach at Florence, and we would have, battles with them. And Louis liked me as an opposing player. He always complimented me when we would play them. And so he was at Florence, and I graduated from Burlington Township, and I went to college. and he left Florence and he became the new basketball coach at Rancocas Valley. And I graduated from college, and he gave me a call and he said, hey, I was 22 years old. He said, hey, I have a JV job open. I need an assistant. Would you want to be my assistant at Rancocas Valley? So I jumped at the chance because I thought, other than my high school coach, Ken Faulkner, I would love to learn as much as I can from Lou Guadino. So I went to RV. I got approved. I was a JV coach. Lou was the varsity coach, and Lou stayed 1 year at RV and took a new job at Saddle River High School up in Central Jersey. And in 1983-84, I was 24 years old, between Lou Guadino and my high school coach, Ken Faulkner, writing me letters of recommendation. I became a 24-year-old head coach of RV boys basketball.
Wow. So how long did you coach at RV, and what was the experience like? I know you had some great success there.
Yeah, so I was there for 15 years, and when they hired me, they had not had a winning record for 11 years. They were bad. And my first year we were 15-8, and then we had a couple 500 years, and then the early 90s started to come in around, and we had some really good players starting to come in at RV. And by the time we got to like 1995, we went to a Group 3 state championship, and we got beat by 1 point by Shabazz High School from Newark. And that was probably, people ask me this, that was probably the best boys team I ever had, and we lost the state championship by 1 point. The following year, we had graduated like 4 or 5 seniors. The following year, in 1996, we went back to the state championship at Rutgers, and we beat Snyder in the state championship, in the Group 3 state championship. And then in 97, my best player, Dan Miller, who was a McDonald's All-American, fractured his fibula in a state game. And when he went down, we got beat in the South Jersey sectional final. The following year, his senior year in 98, we won South Jersey. We won the state semifinal game, and we went up to North Jersey, and we won the state championship in 1998. Again, and so we won 2 state championships when I was at RV in the 15 years that I was there. We went to 3, we won 2. And then after 98, I went to Cherokee and became the boys coach there.
Wow. So what do you enjoy most about coaching?
Mike, I think it's changed over the years. At first, it was like I really enjoyed the competition, and I still enjoy that. But as you get older, you look back at the kids that you coached, and they become adults, and they become friends, and they become moms and dads. And I enjoy the relationships now. I really do. I know you're going to ask me, because I've heard you ask everybody else, like, what's your philosophy? Or, we can all have our own ways that we go about coaching the game and how we think we should, coach basketball. But the one thing that I inherited from my high school coach, Ken Faulkner, was that he wanted us all to feel like we were part of something special. And I know that when I was in high school, his family was a big part of the program. Like after a big game, we'd go in the team room, and his dad, Elwood, would come in and go, "Ronnie, baby, you played a great game," and his mom and dad would have us to the house. And so I've tried to do that over the years. We've had spaghetti dinners at my house with teams. And, I just want the kids to feel like they're part of not only a family, but something special when they're part of, whatever program that I've been associated with. And I hope they feel that way.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the one disappointing thing about this year, because I know our group of kids like to eat, and they love the pasta parties. They love getting together. But it's just, like you said, they're a family. They love seeing each other. They get together for that, season, and they're in the games with each other, they're in the practice with each other. They spend so much time with each other, but they really love that experience. So, it's a shame we can't have that at this point, but hopefully soon. Hopefully soon.
Hopefully soon.
So let me ask you, so after RV, you come to Cherokee. So how long did you coach at Cherokee for the boys?
12 years. So I came in 98. So what happened was I had resigned at RV in 98, and I wanted to go get my master's degree, and I wanted to become a guidance counselor. I thought, okay, I've coached 15 years. I don't want to wear a sweatsuit to school every day. I'd like to be a guidance counselor. So I resigned. And back in the day, it was in the Philadelphia Inquirer and the Courier Post. And about a week went by after I resigned at RV, and we were living in Ravenscliff in Marlton, and the doorbell rang. And my daughter said, "Dad, there's two men standing on the front porch." So I went to the front door and I opened the door, and it was at the time Joe Schramm, the athletic director of Cherokee, and the principal at the time was a man named Don Stecker. So the athletic director and the principal were standing on my front porch, and they asked, could they talk to me? And I invited them in, and they said, we saw that you resigned. We have a basketball job open, a boys basketball job, and we just came by to see if you would consider maybe coming to Cherokee to coach. And I told them I appreciated the offer, but I really wanted to go get my master's degree and be a guidance counselor. And so we talked for about a half hour, and they left. And I talked to my wife, and I just said, I don't want to coach basketball at Cherokee. I go, that's a football school, okay? They're good in football. And I said, if I wanted to coach, I'd stay at RV. I just want to be a guidance counselor. So a couple of weeks went by, and my wife said to me, "Why wouldn't you consider that?" She goes, "It'd be a closer commute for you to go to work." She goes, "Our kids are going to go there. You'd be in school with your kids." And she said, "And, maybe you can help, maybe you can have a good program there. Like, why don't you give it a shot?" So she talked me into really considering it. So I called Mr. Schramm and Don Stecker, and I went in and they walked me around school, and they recommended me to the board, and I got approved, and I became the boys basketball coach in 1998 at Cherokee. So, and that was all good. I had great times. We won 2 South Jersey championships. We won a state championship in 2010. And then I said that was enough again. I quit in 2010. And then 5 years went by, and Donna Charlesworth, the principal, came to me, and she said that Shannon Bretz, the girls coach at Cherokee at the time, was going to be becoming a vice principal, and they couldn't get anybody to coach the girls. And she said, "Would you do it? Would you coach the girls?" And I said, "Oh, Donna, I've never coached girls before. I don't coach girls, And she goes, "Well, we can't get anybody to do it. Would you just try it for 1 year?" So again, I went home, and at this point, after being home for 5 years, my daughter, my son, and my wife were like, "Go, get out of the house, give it a shot, do it." And that was 6 years ago. And to be honest with you, it was like the best move I ever made. I love coaching the girls. So
Yeah, I know we talked about it earlier. So what are your major differences between coaching boys and girls? I know that you have to approach the girls differently than the boys as far as talking to them, and sometimes maybe practices, because of just some girls are just different. I mean, I have 3 girls myself, and I feel like sometimes I'm always fumbling for my words, because if I say the wrong thing, I feel like I'm gonna make my daughter upset or my wife upset. So I know that's probably factors into some of the things.
What I find with girls, and the boys are going to be mad. First of all, girls are smarter than boys, okay? So, the stuff that we run at Cherokee offensively, out of bounds, sideline, under the basket, press offenses, the whole thing, I probably do 2 times as much with the girls that I ever did with any boys team that I ever coached. That's number one. Number two, on the flip side, girls aren't as instinctual on the court as boys are. So, I like coaching the girls game because, you can teach girls, they're smart, and they execute, and they do what you ask them to do. I mean, it's rewarding to coach girls. As far as coaching them, I don't really coach them any different than I did the boys. The only thing that I will say is that since I've coached the girls, there's a little bit of a softer side with me. I get after them, and I'll coach them hard, but I tell them I love them. I love them, I'd be proud, not because you're one of the dads of one of my kids, but I'd be proud of any of the 5 teams that I've coached. I'd be proud to call any of those kids my kid. We were talking before, and, after practice, I mean, a 2.5-hour practice, a hard practice, they leave and they'll be going, "Bye, Coach Powell. Thank you, Coach Powell. Bye, Mr. McFadden. Thank you, Coach McFadden. Thank you, Coach Farrell. Thank us for what? We just killed you for 2.5 hours." The boys would be like, "Screw you. I don't want to be here for 2.5 hours anyway, but girls are so appreciative of, what you're trying to do with them. they get it. Like girls get it. So, again, I'm 61 now. I'm in my happy place as far as coaching is concerned right now. Like I love coaching these kids,
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely a fun group of kids. And it's really cool to see the growth and development each year of the program. And I'm glad that you decided to give that 1 year proposal and an extended an extended stay. And I'm sure that the girls would agree that they really love playing for you. So what would you say is like your coaching style? Like what do you try to focus on with the kids?
I think for us, and the girls would probably agree that, we spend a lot of time defensively in practice handling, anything that we usually see on video from other teams. We spend a lot of time teaching them how to defend, everything. And we're proud to hang our hat on our defensive effort, game in and game out. The other thing is, we want to take care of the ball. I mean, it really doesn't matter what sport you coach, Mike. You watch the NFL playoffs. If you turn the ball over, you're going to lose the game. Okay. So, we try to limit our turnovers. We try to make sure that we have opportunities to score and take care of the basketball. And then, I think the last thing, is that we want to play smart. There's a lot of different ways to play basketball. Some teams like to run up and down and, shoot shots off of one pass and press and trap and create chaos. And, and that's all well and good if you have a lot of kids that you can play. But, since I've been here, we've never really gone more than 8 deep. We'll have like an 8-kid rotation. And, that doesn't really lend itself to playing up and down. And not to say that we would never fast break. We try to take advantage of what we can, but we just defend, take care of the ball, play smart. And then the fourth thing is special situations, out of bounds plays, full court pressure situations, like those special situations that, hopefully we can steal a basket here or there with the kids, knowing what they're supposed to do in those situations. So it ain't rocket science. It's just, that's how we approach it,
No, that's great. I mean, I know that just because my daughter is a part of the program, but it's nice for other people to hear it. But it seems like the common theme amongst all the coaches is they preach defense. I guess, without stopping the other team, it doesn't matter how many points you're going to score because you're not going to win many games if you don't have those key stops or can't, stop, that ball from, making it cross in or and giving them runs, So let's talk about, the team in 2017 for the girls, since we're talking girls basketball. Can you give us a little insight into that team? Because I know you took them into the state tournament and they had a nice run there.
Yeah, so my first year, we had 5 seniors and they graduated. And we had 4 senior starters, along with Isabella Terrian was a junior. And then she came back as a senior. And she basically had 4 new starters that didn't have a whole lot of varsity experience. And Isabella had a heck of a year. That we won our first SJIBT championship that year. We won the Olympic American division, and we won South Jersey Group 4. We beat Toms River North at Toms River North on a buzzer beater by Isabella Terrian, driving the length of the floor. And that team finished 27-3. And Izzy just, she was a great leader with younger kids, with kids that were trying to find their way early in the year. And she just was a real veteran presence for those younger kids. And she did a great job. And I mean, she was a great player, obviously, as, the other 2 Terrians are as well. But so that kind of got us going. And, we've been in the sectional championship every year that, we've been there. We won 2 and we lost 2, and I was hoping that we would get back there this year, but because of COVID, we're not going to have that opportunity. But, really, I'm really proud of the culture that we have because, and this already, but not only do we bring the younger kids that are in junior high into the gym, and we have the Macy versus Marlton Middle, a game at Cherokee. But like, our off-season workouts, our summer workouts, these kids buy in and they put the time in. And that's why I believe that we are successful. And even this last year with COVID, Katie Fricker and Gabby running a clinic on an outdoor court in the summer for kids that are in junior high. I mean, that's what the family program is all about. You just, it's not only about the kids that are with you at the time, but you got to have a plan for the kids that are on their way up too. You got to know those pieces of the puzzle and how they're going to fit in. And, all these kids are important that way, because I feel like those that are leaving are still invested in those that are coming up, and we honor the past, but we're focused on the future.
Yeah, I think that's one of the keys, to your success is that, you have, the feeders, basically. You have the feeder program, you have, constantly a new group of kids that are coming up. They've had experience with the Cherokee players and, from camps with the coaches. So there's a relationship there. They haven't, I think that DeMacy versus Marlton Middle game is really important for the kids, just because, they can envision themselves being on that court as high school players. That's the reason why I think that game is important. When they're in middle school, it's about just being a part of a school, being a part of a program, but there's a lot of kids on the team. But that one game is, I think, the most special game during the year. They all get together. We typically take pictures with both schools because we're proud of all the Marlton teams. But for them to step foot on that court, I mean, they just can't wait to do that. It's like, being a little kid in Little League, when you get on the major league field, you feel like a big kid now. So it just prepares them. They know what it's like. They see the other girls. Plus, it just helps them to build that relationship and that bond, with the school, and have that sense of school pride and school camaraderie, which is important. And I think that's also what they bring to the table. So last year was a historical year for our Cherokee girls. I mean, I think, if we went down a couple things, it was the most wins in team history. They went the farthest in the tournament history as far as the school, with 30-1 record. They had some really memorable games. I mean, one of the memorable games, the first one early on, to me, was that St. Rose game. So maybe we could talk about that a little bit.
So that game was played at Rancocas Valley, and Anthony Corrado, who you've had on previously, set up South Jersey versus the Shore, which was, I thought, a tremendous format. And we played the last game that night against St. Rose, who, traditional powerhouse in New Jersey girls basketball. And, the preseason number one last year going into the season in the state. And our girls, that game, I was so proud of them because, we came out and we played what I would call Lady Chief basketball. I mean, we defended them. They got a girl, Bryn Farrell, that's going to the University of Florida. I mean, we did a great job on her. We executed well on offense, and, we were winning at halftime. And, to St. Rose's credit, they made a run and they got ahead. But, just typical of that team last year, it was like they were boxers. Like, somebody would punch them in the mouth and they would counter punch them. Like, okay, you hit me with a good shot, but we're not going to back down. And, my kids in that game, I think we got down 6 or 7 points, and it looked like the momentum was, going to go St. Rose's way. And we turned it around. We got some key steals, and, Olivia Kessler, I remember, hit a big three, and, she came up with a steal with Katie Fricker. And, there were just moments in that game where, it was electric because there were a lot of people in the gym. It was a high profile game. And, we came out and we won 41-40. And I really believe that there are games during the course of each season where kids can really gain a lot of confidence from. And that game told our kids that we could play with anybody, if we could play with them. And that was big. And that was early on last year,
Yeah, I think that was a big game in the season. And the Washington Township game at Washington Township, to me, was like another one. It was like escape death again. There was a couple games throughout the year. I think RV was one, Bishop Eustace was one, where we were down by a couple points going into the last minute of play, but we were able to turn it around. But I think during Washington Township, I think you were down like 5 points with only seconds left on the clock. That was probably one of my favorite moments. I wasn't there, unfortunately, so I had to watch it on video, but I watched it many, many times. And I saw you jumping up and down the sidelines. You and McFadden and Farrell were jumping up and down, and we were just cracking up.
Well, I've said before, there are a lot of good coaches in South Jersey, and I think the MO on us last year, and it started at Eastern, where teams just started playing zone. They wouldn't play man-to-man against us. Eastern did it, RV did it. And then when we went to Washington Township, Coach Natal did it. And you know what? We struggled against the zone, and it forced us as coaches and as players to get better against the zone. And we did. And, that game, we couldn't score, but neither could they, and that game, at the end of the game, we asked Katie Fricker to miss a free throw on purpose, and she made it, and she wasn't trying. And then, we had to press, and Alexa Terrian had fouled out, and Amani Reed steals the inbounds pass, and she throws it to Avery Kester, who throws a shot up with like 2 seconds left, and it hits off the rim, and it comes down. All of us, I just see is Kennedy Wilburn tip it in, and it goes in at the buzzer, and we win by 1. And I mean, was it improbable? Yeah, it was improbable, and it was so exciting because, we had locked the league up that night. We had won the league championship, and it was exciting because Amani got to be a part of that, and Kennedy had a great senior year for us, and she tipped it in at the buzzer. And I think Kennedy was more happy for Amani because Amani made it a big steal, at the end of the game where we needed a steal, and Amani got it for us. But going back to the zone stuff, then we run into Township again in the state tournament, and they play zone again, as did Shawnee and some other teams. And we got better at it. Like we had to, and now I think, we're ready for whether it's zone or man. I'm confident in what we do. So I thank those coaches for doing that, because if they hadn't done that, we wouldn't have been ready for that stuff, So it paid off in the end, even though it was a struggle.
Yeah. So let's talk about maybe the South Jersey finals, because, here we are, we're playing Shawnee. Shawnee's a Cinderella team. I mean, they were the number 14. They upset the first game, and then they go to Jackson Memorial, who everybody thought Jackson Memorial was going to blow them out of the water. They didn't. Shawnee wins. Shawnee beats Lenape. I think they beat Clearview. Then it was Jackson Memorial. Then they beat Lenape, and then now they're facing us.
Great run.
Yeah, thankfully on our court, but
I'll talk a little bit about that. And I'm going to go, I'm trying to backtrack here a little bit. I'm going to tie the SJIBT into this whole scenario. We won the SJIBT 3 times in a row, Mike, and then we didn't play in it. We decided to play a showcase game. We played Wildwood Catholic with Coach Steve DePatry and, the girls, one of the girls that you interviewed. So, we played them in a game there, and I think Mike Callahan does a great job, but with PowerPoints looming so large, I wanted to be the number 1 seed, hence Shawnee coming to us in the South Jersey, sectional final. So, we had to kind of like not play some of the preliminary games in the SJIBT because we might not get the PowerPoints that we would be able to get if we went and played somebody else. So it wasn't anything against Mike or the SJIBT. I love the SJIBT. Like I felt like you. I'll go there all day and watch game after game. It's a great venue. It's cool, and it's cool for the girls. But we had aspirations and goals on being the number 1 seed, and we had to make some choices there. But so that run last year, we didn't have an easy path. I mean, we beat Bridgeton in the opening round pretty handily. And then who do we get in the second round but Atlantic City? And Atlantic City had beaten Mainland with Kylie Watson in the Cape Atlantic final. They had beaten Wildwood Catholic. Atlantic City was on a roll, and, we played well in the Atlantic City game. And then who do we get? Oh, we get Washington Township again. And, they bring half a gym full of people and a blew out. And we have a lot of respect for Coach Natal and her staff. And they're just class acts. They root for us. We root for them. And we win a hard fought game there. And then, as you said, Shawnee's on the road for 4 games in a row. And now, they knock off their 3 opponents on the road, which is impressive. And then they got to come to us. And that was a good game. I mean, we ended up winning, I think, by double digits or 9 or 10. But they put up a good fight, but I just knew, when we were going to play on our home court that we had a good chance to move on. I was so excited for our kids to hold that trophy, that sectional championship, and to know that we were going to go play another game, was cool too. And that was going to be against a common opponent, Montgomery, who we had played, in a non-league game the last 2 years, home and away. And then now we're going to play them in the state semifinal game. So it really was a fun year last year. The kids, they earned everything they worked for. They, like I said, they put the time in. They're committed. Not only in the winter but the summer. And I couldn't have been happier for them. I was just so excited that they were going to get an opportunity to go to the state semifinal. So
Yeah.
It was cool. It was a great run.
It was pretty cool. I mean, for me, that Montgomery game was like really, bittersweet for us because Gabby had gotten hurt in the Montgomery game earlier in the season. I think she was having a pretty good first half. I remember my wife telling me, because I had to work, she scored like 9 points in the first half. And I think, going into the third quarter, she was making a drive to the basket. She kicked the ball out to Katie Fricker. When she landed with all of her weight on her ankle, and it just gave out on her.
Yeah.
But she was happy because Katie Fricker hit the 3-pointer. She's like, yeah, Dad, Katie Fricker hit the 3-pointer. And then Amani, of course, the wonderful person she is, she saw Gabby. She couldn't even walk. She picked Gabby up and carried her to the car.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's the kind of team that we have. Like, these girls, they love each other. They care about each other. They look out for each other. So, I mean, that was a tough thing. But for her to be able to come back and play against a team that she got hurt against, I mean, to me, that was just a nice way for her to finish out the season. And we didn't know that was going to be the last game. I mean, we thought we were going to be Franklin, but everything at that point, was getting.
If I may, Mike, Gabby played great in the state semifinal game. I mean, she played great. She hit some shots. She had some steals for layups. Gabby played a really, really good game for a freshman in a state semifinal game last year. So we were excited about that.
That was really fun. But then it's like, Twitter's going crazy, of course. And unfortunately, social media is a lot faster than the old telephone. So, I mean, I think you had mentioned it before that, how did the girls, find out about the championship being canceled?
I was laying in bed at around 10 of 12 midnight, and my phone on my Remind app, which the girls are on, they started sending me reminds, and they're saying, Coach Powell, it's on Twitter that they're canceling the state championship game. Is this true? And so I'm hitting them back, and I said, girls, I haven't received any notification of that. And I said, Mr. Agnew hasn't called me, or the principal, I don't know what's going on. And they apparently were on their own little group chat. And as the story goes, they were all screaming over top of one another, and some were crying, and, some were yelling. And, that bothers me a lot for them because, we still had to play the game, but again, that's an experience that not a lot of kids have an opportunity to be a part of. Whether you go there and you lose or you go there and you win, it says that, and I tell them this, it says that out of the 370 or 80 Group 4 schools in the state of New Jersey, you're in the final 2. You're in the final 2, okay? And, if you win, great, and if you lose, we're going to be sad, but it's such a sense of accomplishment and an experience that, again, a lot of kids don't get a chance to ever have, take place in their lives. So I really wanted that for them, and that kind of still, it bothers me as I think about it, but what are you going to do? I mean, everybody kind of was in the same boat, and the only other thing I'll say about that, and this bothers me too. The NJSIAA, they canceled it, and then we go and find out that we are the only state in the NFHS, the National Federation of High School Sports, that had teams advance to the state championship game that didn't recognize them as co-state champions. The state here recognized us as regional champions. But in Pennsylvania and Rhode Island and Delaware and in Maryland and Vermont, anybody that made it to that game, they were co-state champions. And I just don't get it, you know, from the state standpoint on why it was so hard to not let these kids be co-state champs, you know, especially the girls. I mean, you know, it was just, it's just, you know, it's stupid. So sorry.
Bad enough they lost their season, you know, then, I mean, they should just be recognized for their achievement and their hard work, you know?
Yeah. I mean, we didn't, Mike, I mean, it's COVID, right? We didn't have a year-ending banquet. We didn't have a Courier Post banquet or, you know, all South Jersey banquet. We've had nothing. There's been no recognition of what these kids have done, you know, and I hope at some point that we can get them all back together and recognize what they did, because what they did was really special, really was.
There was a fun group of kids. I mean, the parents, the kids, and the fans. I mean, the one thing that stood out to me is, you know, as we got further into the season, you know, we got more and more fans. So that's been my goal forever, because I would come to some games and I'm like, this is a shame. You know, these girls play good basketball and they deserve to have fans in the stands, and we have good fans. But there should be more people out there supporting the team. And I understand sometimes, you know, maybe an early game at 3:45 is not going to be, you know, good, conducive for your schedule. But, you know, for these big games, it was nice to see the fans packed in there. And the one thing I will say about Washington Township, I was very, very impressed the fact that, you know, the coach had brought the team to come out and watch the Shawnee game and support us throughout. I mean, to me, that's really classy. And I think that's the kind of stuff that's going to build, you know, relationships. It's going to build South Jersey girls basketball. You know, we got to get away from, you know, we lost to them or we play them in our conference. They're a rival. Hey, you know what? It doesn't matter. You lost. It's over. Let's move on. Let's support them. They're South Jersey. They represent us. We are a part of South Jersey. And until we can get past that, I think that's going to, you know, that's going to really help us to grow. And I, to me, that was the most impressive thing. And to see other coaches from other teams there, I know Coach P from Eastern had stuck into the gym, and I saw a lot of people out there. You know, they just want to support, you know, what we do, because they know, you know, when they get there, you know, they will love to have everybody else's support. And I think that we can do it. I think, you know,
I totally agree. And with Jen Natal and the Washington Township girls, like I made a point of telling our girls, I said, I know you saw them up there. Like, they were all there, and they weren't there because they were rooting against us. They were there because they were rooting for us, you know? And I told our girls the same thing. Like, we fight hard in our conference. Like, we fight hard against the Shawnees, the Lenapes, the Cherokee East, the Winslows, the Washington Townships. You know, we fight, you know? But when somebody moves on and they advance, you know, you got to root for the team that's from here. You know, you gotta say, hey, job well done. You know, you guys did what you had to do to get out, and good luck. You know, we want to support you that way. I totally agree that way.
Yeah, that's perfect. So let's come to this year. So how have things changed for you as far as, you know, I know COVID's, you know, kind of given us a shortened season. There's no conference championship. There's no state, you know, playoffs or championship or anything like that. So, and I know there's a lot of rules and regulations. How was it adjusted? How have you adjusted to that as far as like your goals and aspirations for the kids for this year?
So I'm gonna backtrack again.
Okay.
So I don't do summer leagues or fall leagues. Cherokee's never played in a summer league since I've been the coach, and everybody has their own idea on that. But, you know, what we do is we have 15 open gyms in the summer. And when my kids are home from AAU, we have open gyms and we work on what we work on, our things that we do. And we bring the younger kids in, the 7th and 8th graders, and that's their time to see what it's like to be in the gym with the kids that are in the program. Well, I didn't feel comfortable this summer, and the school was not really allowing us to use the gym. So we didn't have any of that. So we had no summer workouts, right? Then we get to the fall, and the governor says that you can have workouts. So thank goodness for Tony DeCaro at Fundamental Hoops and Dave Distel, who was my old assistant at Cherokee Boys. You know, our girls go to them and they get 9 or 10 workouts in to kind of get them in shape. And again, run the stuff that we run, because, I'll give it to Tony or Dave, and they instruct the girls, and, they get them ready. So that was our preseason. And then, as far as the season goes, I've heard, like, when you ask other people on, other guests, other coaches, what are you doing to make it fun? And, I've been thinking about that. And I thought about it before the season started with some of the people that you had interviewed. And you know what, my own mind was, and what my conclusion was, I'm going to make it as normal for them as I possibly can. And what that means is they're going to come to practice. We're going to practice. We're going to prepare for our next opponent, and we're going to have a recipe like we always do on how we're going to play that game. And then we're going to watch film, because we go to the truth room and we show them what's going on. And that is what these kids are used to. And I didn't want to change and make it any different because it's a weird year, or, and we certainly weren't going to have a pity party for ourselves because, there isn't any conference championship. There's no sectional, there's no state. I'm not trying to be full of myself. I think that if you would ask most people around here, if it were a normal year, we would have a good chance to, do some good things this year. We might have a chance to compete for the league again. We might have a chance to compete for a sectional. Not to say we would win, but we could compete for it. And I think we could compete again for a state championship, but we don't have that. So, my approach has been from the beginning is that we're going to do things the way we've been doing them, and it's going to be as normal as it's been for these kids. And, we're going to take, and I tell them, we're going to take each day and be happy for each day, whether we're in practice together or a game. And, we thank God that we have the opportunity to be together, and that's just the way I'm looking at it.
Yeah, I mean, really, just for us to have the opportunity. I heard that now New York will play February 1st, but I heard they have to be done by like March 1st. So they only have 30 days to play. So they have to have tryouts, they have to have practices, and they have to squeeze in games in 1 month.
That's bad.
I mean, at that point, you might as well not even play, because how are kids going to get out there and not get hurt? They haven't been training, they've been practicing. Or
somebody gets COVID and then they get shut down and there's no time, so it's, it is, it's challenging. But I'm so excited to be in the gym with the kids. And, when they come in with their masks on, I can't see their smiles, but I can read their eyes. And they, the giggles are there, and they laugh, and they, they enjoy being around one another, and I'm happy for that, right now, because that's all we got. So,
yeah, at this point, I think you make the best of it. You take the schedule that you got, and I guess you kind of adjust on the fly as things happen. You have to adjust the schedule a little bit here and there, but you just you play the games as they come.
Yeah, you have to be flexible.
Yeah, I think you have to be flexible. I mean, you really have to at this point, because you don't know. I mean, the schedule that you have, it can change from day to day, hour to hour, week to week, depending on, COVID situations of your opponents. I mean, I was looking at the boys side, I think it was Shawnee and Lenape. They both had cases. So the two teams that they played, so 4 teams were affected, and now all 4 teams are in COVID protocol for 14 days. So every single opponent they had, had to be rescheduled or canceled. So they lost those games potentially. So your 15 games now could be 9 or 10 now, So at this point, just make the best of it. So can you tell us a little bit about the team and the captains maybe, and, the leadership structure and how you
pick? So we have one senior, Alexa Tarian. She's a captain. We have 2 juniors, CJ Apostar, Katie Fricker. They are the 2 other captains. There's 3. And just like Gabby, all 3 of those kids started as freshmen for us. So Lex has been a 4-year starter. Katie and CJ have now been 3-year starters. And, as far as our captains are concerned, like, I really liked, what I heard on your interview with Coach P with the, how she gets the NFHS.
That was Handy.
Oh, Coach Handy, that's right. I'm sorry. Jason Handy from Winslow said that he has them take a course with NFHS, and I never heard of that. So I'm going to check that out, because, when you make kids captains, they know that they're supposed to be leaders, but sometimes they don't know how to lead, So we talked to them about their leadership on the floor, in practice, in games, how they handle themselves with the younger kids, how they, show the younger kids how we do things. So that's kind of like what I'm looking for them, from them. Again, our culture, our kids, they treat each other with respect and admiration. I've never had a problem with the girls with, drama or, hazing or any of that stuff. Our kids are good kids, and these kids that are captains need to understand, though, that the younger kids kind of look up to them. They don't necessarily understand that. But I tell them, I'll remind them, I'll say, Katie, CJ, Lex, remember when you were a freshman and Isabella was a senior or Ava was a senior? What did you think of them? Oh, I was scared of them. They were seniors. Well, that's how some of these kids are looking at you. So you have to be personable with them and make them feel like they're part of the family. You have to accept them and help them. So that's kind of like how we approach it. The kids like being captains, rightfully so. So there are 3 captains, and then we have Delaney Jackson's a sophomore. She's starting for us. Obviously, your daughter, Gabby Recinto, is a sophomore. She's a returning starter. Then we have Bree Wegner's a junior. We have Chloe Fallon's a sophomore. We have Taylor Bartram's a freshman. They're kind of like the main kids that we play on the varsity rotation. And then we have our, younger kids that are playing some JV. But the core group of our kids, Mike, in our program, we have like 9 sophomores in our program that go between JV and varsity. And, your daughter and Delaney and those kids were part of Mike Jackson's travel team a couple years ago in 7th and 8th grade. John McFadden and Aaron Farrell and I knew we would go down there and do clinics with them and teach them how to play man-to-man defense. And we knew that this was a really good class that was coming up, and combined with, what we had with Kennedy Wilburn and Alexa Tarian and Ava Tarian and some of those that have moved on now. These kids were going to be the keystone, the cornerstone of our program for the next few years. So we're really excited about them as, the other kids, but the sophomore crew is a good group that we have right now.
So we're getting to the tail end here, and just you talking about that kind of, made me think. One of the things I always ask is, what can we do, as a community to, build South Jersey girls basketball, to raise awareness, to get more girls involved, to get more fans. Did you have anything that you wanted to add to that?
I liked, just the fact that you have a podcast, like, obviously they never had anything like that. We didn't have cell phones when I was growing up. So, this is really good. I think, we can promote the game again by, in our own communities by, having camps, by having clinics with the younger kids, not only the travel teams, but the rec teams. There are kids in the rec program that, for whatever reason, maybe they can't afford to play in a travel program, or, they play a different sport. You got to be able to reach out to all branches of the rec department and the travel programs and cultivate some of this talent. All right. And then I think, as far as working kids out, I was telling our girls this story yesterday. When I was in high school, we had summer leagues, and the rule was, like, myself and another player from Burlington Township, there could only be 2 teammates on one team. So I'd be on a team with like 2 kids from Burlington City, 2 kids from Willingboro, 2 kids from Florence, 2 kids from Holy Cross, 2 kids from Shawnee, and that was your summer league team. So we got to know these kids because we played, on the same summer league team with them. Now, unless they're playing AAU with each other, sometimes these kids don't even know each other, and they have more avenues than we had because of technology. But I just think, I agree with you. I think these kids, it would be neat if they could train together, and get to know one another. And I really think that if you're successful, people will want to come and watch you play. Not every game, but you saw yourself last year that the state tournament games were our most well-attended games last year by far, because people know they hear or they read or they see it in a tweet that, hey, this team's moving along and they have this record, and, they're 1 game away from the state championship and whatever. And then, all of a sudden they're like, well, I'm going to go see that, So I think that that's all part of it. But I don't know if there's a definitive answer on how you grow it, but I think you and, people like you that are doing podcasts and some of these media outlets we're moving in the right direction to give kids, an opportunity to be seen and, to grow the game a little bit.
Yeah, the one thing that you made me think about was, you know, our group of sophomores now, they basically played with each other since they were fourth grade. The funny thing is that Mike Jackson was Gabby's original rec basketball coach. Actually, he was, I don't know, I'll say this, he was the assistant to one of the other parents.
Okay.
So he was the assistant, so that was the joke back then. But really, CJ was on that group. Carly was on that same group. Gabby was on that team. So you had like 3 or 4 girls that were on the same group. And obviously Delaney was in that group because Nick was one of the coaches. You had 4 kids that were in, rec together. Then here you go, a couple years later, travel starts, and then you get, the girls together, and they played together pretty much ever since. I think for us has been, the quality of coaching. We've been really fortunate that the coaches that we've had have really taught the girls, the game. And not only just shooting the basketball, not only passing the basketball, but understanding what it means to be a basketball player, the commitment, the energy that has to be there. And then, understanding how to deal with different things, on the fly, like you said, game situations, special plays, inbound passes, especially if you're down. If somebody throws a press in with you, you didn't go over that press because it's something that's new and you never really seen. You got to make adjustments in the timeout. So I think just developing that basketball IQ, but just teaching the girls, to love the game. If you can teach the girls to love the game, I think everything's going to happen.
Yeah.
And we're lucky enough that, enough of the girls from our group, they love the game and they've, been a solid core. And that's really what's going to happen is they're going to just fill in the rank. So I think really, really good coaching, having clinics, having high school coaches and, their staff invest in the community, like you said, is a key. I mean, I'll give you a perfect example, Catherine Hatch. I don't think she played 1 year of travel. Her age group, really kind of was like, it didn't really form until later. So it was kind of hard to get a cohesiveness or any kind of, thing going. And she was playing other sports like soccer and things like that. But now here she is in high school and she's still playing basketball. So I think those little clinics, they do make a difference and they inspire the kids. And it might not, pay off at that point, but later in life it plants a seed. And now here they are coming to high school and now they want to be on the team. They know what the coaches are like. They know what the coaches expect. And I think that kind of, motivates them to want to play. I think most kids are afraid to try out for teams because they don't know anything about the other players. They don't know anything about the other coaches. They don't know anything about, what's to be expected. But if you've been in that system as far as, these practices, these clinics and things like that, it should make them feel a little bit more, at ease and more confident. And hopefully it also brings more girls out. And you can identify them too as they come. And if a girl decides she doesn't want to, then you can ask her like, hey, how come you're not trying? We'd love to see you. I remember you played before. So, I mean, I think that's the biggest thing there. And then I think just working together as a community. Like, I love that idea that you had to play with 2 other people, because I think if a girl sees another girl or another player sees another player on the other team, I think there's a misconception that they're like, they're the enemy because they're on the opposite team. They're in a rival high school. But I mean, we're all the same. They're both young ladies. They both have a passion for the game. They all have a competitiveness. They have school pride. They want to go to college. They want to aspire to do different things. Some of them want to play in college and some of them don't, but they love the game. And I think if you can get with other kids that have the same likes and interests as you, I think it's going to help. And I think, maybe getting them together and say, hey, all the Lenape Regional District, if you want to come out, the girls, we're going to be at Freedom Park and have a barbecue. It's really low key. Come play some pickup and mix up the teams. Well, you'll be with other kids from other groups and, we'll match you up. And then at the end, we'll make some hamburgers and hot dogs and everybody will have fun. I mean, that would be my ultimate thing. I wanted to do that last year. And I had actually, talked to a number of parents from some of the other schools, but with COVID, it just, it just didn't happen because, things at that point were spiraling. They were getting better in the summertime, but, like if you weren't able to practice as a group in the school, I mean, I don't think it was right to bring kids together, whether, even if you are taking precautions, you might just be safe, like respect the coaches, respect the parents, respect the players. when things get better, then I think we go for it, and we have, a community day, or, a day where we can get the different kids together and just have fun. And you maybe even have the little kids and maybe have little, like, free throw contest or anything, something, cool. But we're getting there. So is there anything that you wanted to bring up before we get ready to finish? I know you talked about some great stuff with RV and Cherokee and the transition between girls.
I just, I feel really fortunate again to be where I am with this group of kids, and especially our group of coaches. I have John McFadden, who I think is as knowledgeable of coach of the game that I've ever been around. I mean, he brings a wealth of knowledge about the game. He coached at Rutgers in the Final Four a long time ago before, a lot of these kids were around. But we have John, we have Aaron Farrell, who's been my JV coach since I've been the girls coach. And we've had 3 different freshman coaches because our freshman coaches are having families. But we have a familiar name to Marlton Sports as our girls freshman coach this year, and that is PJ Megan, who was our boys football coach at Cherokee for a lot of years, very successful. And PJ was one of my original assistants when I was the boys coach at Cherokee. He was my JV coach before he became the head football coach. So I've been blessed with really good people to work with, and that not only love the game, but love the kids. We're just, we're in a happy place right now with the Lady Chiefs. So, we look forward to being with them, and we look forward to continuing the success that we've had, and we look forward to, continuing the culture that we've built there. And we hope that, all of our kids in 7th and 8th grade choose to come to Cherokee and, be part of what we've got going on. I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, well, we're definitely happy. We just love it. We have that school pride, and my kids have grown up in Marlton. They've gone to all Marlton schools, so this is a natural progression. But just the fact that they're at their school and they're with their friends and they're with the kids that they grew up with, I think it has been one of the key things for us, and I think it's made the kids feel comfortable, and it makes them feel like it's home. So I think that's really important. And I just love the fact you have different coaches with different the different backgrounds to bring some insight to the kids and kind of help them with different parts of the game and help them to understand so they can perform at a high level. So all we can say is we wish everybody the best. We hope you have continued success this season, and hopefully by next year everything's back to normal and everybody will be able to enjoy a full season with everything that they were used to, especially the pasta parties and all the different get-togethers and banquets, and just the team camaraderie. We want it to be back to normal, like you said.
Absolutely.
All right, Coach, have a great day. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Mike. We'll see you.